Hello, everyone. Today, I'm joined by Abai Schulze, the founder of ZAAF Collection. How are you doing today, Abai?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. So let me and the viewers know, when did you first realize that you wanted to pursue a career as a designer?
Well, I've always been interested in the arts. So that kind of how it started mainly. I was painting and drawing early on in my years in high school, and also I minored in fine arts in college actually as well.
Okay.
And then I did an internship in Ethiopia, where I had the opportunity to work with a shoe factory, another shoe factory, and that's when I kind of discovered the leather industry in Ethiopia, and I saw an opportunity that was interesting to me, that allowed me to be creative with it. Although that handbags was not my like passion or anything like that. In fact, my mom bought all my handbags growing up, and but what was interesting to me is more of the design aspect of the tangible goods. I could have easily been in furniture or textile and stuff like that. So it's more of it came from the passion of the arts and design.
Sure. And speaking of the design, what's the creative inspiration behind the design of your products?
My products, the last, our most recent collection is inspiration from like geometric shapes, interesting shapes of architectural designs. And so when I travel, I love just looking at unique shapes and how they work negative spaces and stuff like that. And I'm also very much love being in the woods. I like hiking. I'm that person taking lots of random pictures of plants and colors and textures. And so those are really, nature. And then there's like man-made, the arts, museums, and stuff like that that inspire me. So it's a combination of both.
Interesting. And what would you say is the most fulfilling part of being an entrepreneur?
The most fulfilling, what it comes down to is really people, that the impact you have in that one person, and that one person has an impact of 5 people, and it carries on. There's a multiplier factor to it. It's not just you, and I think that's what's really interesting about being an entrepreneurship. You're solving somebody's problem, and what ZAAF is really closing the market gap between the African artisans and the consumers in the international market. And so that's the ZAAF story, really what comes down to it.
Sure. And so you're operating a business on multiple continents now. You mentioned you're working with artisans in Ethiopia, and clearly you have storefronts here in the US also. What are some of the challenges that come with running a business that's located on 2 continents?
Well, my initial challenge was I was based in Ethiopia. So I have a manufacturing company there, and initially it was very much not setting the right system. I think that's the challenge, because when everything depends on you, then you really can't grow, you can't scale, you can't think big. And I think that was the initial challenge, and so now my team is completely capable of running the show in Ethiopia. I really have to be there, really. And so I think and then once you, on this side, now I'm facing a different challenge to grow to more stores than trying to create the right systems. And so, every phase has different challenges that you face through. So.
Of course. So initially, what were those systems that you put in place to help solve those challenges in the beginning stages? And what are the systems that you are either implementing now or that you want to implement now to help scale the current phase?
I think my initial thing was, it's really important, the people that you hire, you work with, you invest in them and give them agency to make decisions, for them to become their own like problem solvers, versus always asking you for every little things. Or just being really hands-on. And so there is a growing pain in that, just because, is your baby, you want to make sure nothing fails, and you want to hold it really tightly. But that also you're crippling it in long term. And so I had to kind of let it go. There are the hiccups that happens all the time, whatever. But at the end, it sums up to something positive versus downhill. So, and we're trying to do that here as well on this side. Even people I hire, I'm trying to give them more agency, have them make decisions outside of me in case something happens to me. So.
Okay. So in terms of hiring, how big is your team right now? I guess overall.
In Ethiopia, we have like a team of 17 people about.
Wow.
In the US, I just have mainly salespeople, like five people.
So what are I guess maybe the challenges with finding the right people? Because in business, I guess, you're only as good as the people that are working, with you and for you, right? Yeah. So could you speak a little bit about how you find people and maybe like the training process and bringing them up to speed on what you need them to get done?
Yeah. So for me, at least in Ethiopia, I really do care about the person's motivation level versus their experience. Because if they're super motivated, that when you invest in them, they can really grow into the company of a certain culture you want. Versus when someone has X amount of years, they already like kind of come with this entitlement and can't really maneuver them and stuff like that. And also you have a little bit more impact on someone who's starting off with zero than somebody that already like kind of made it, but they're going to be possibly a headache.
Right. So about the fashion industry, are there any trends that you're seeing now that are interesting to you? And how do you navigate kind of staying on course with what your mission and vision is and kind of going to something that you're seeing is becoming more popular in the industry?
Yeah. Well, one, I think, which is a good thing, the one trend is that people are more conscious of what they consume. And there is something that they appreciate about slow fashion and people with actually, the good environment that you hire, the type of people you hire, and stuff like that. And also the African aesthetics is becoming very popular. And, I hope this is not a trend. It's more going to be, something that you embrace as a lifestyle. So all of those things, they play to our favor that we started out like that. We don't have to change to the trend just because we exist as that. And so that's it's been interesting to see that. And also that our own, like Africans actually have appreciation for their own made in Africa products. When I started, it wasn't like that as much. And so I see that change, that shift as well. And so I think it's an important phase to be in, where people actually appreciate their own aesthetics, their own brands as well.
Sure. What do you think inspired that change or that shift?
I think one, awareness, when you know when things are how it's made, who made it, and two, presentation. If you make it look cool, presented in an appealing way, that also helps. And unfortunately, another thing is that when the Western media covers it as a cool thing, there is also a level of the psyche that turns around like, oh, it is cool then start embracing it as well. So there's that.
Got it. So speaking of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial skills, if you could wake up tomorrow as a master of any entrepreneurial skill, what would it be and why?
That's a good question. There would be a lot, but one, I think it would be more of the way you tap into an opportunity and then at what speed. So it's constantly, as an entrepreneur, you're pivoting, you're seeing it up, this opportunity, that opportunity. So everything's a trade-off. And so you can be 5 minutes delayed or too futuristic, not timely. And so I think that set of skill is powerful. So I like to have that.
And how would that benefit your business?
How would that benefit me? It would be more of like what market to discover, what market has, what category of product that's appealing. Is it too complicated to get into a certain type of industry that's, that makes sense in your head, but in reality, does it? So, and technology as well, like embracing certain type of techie aspect of it, fashion. Is it too soon or not?
Sure. Okay. At this phase of your entrepreneurial journey, what would you say would be the most helpful to you?
What would be, currently I'm doing an accelerator program that helps startups prepare them for scaling up growth and to be ready for to raise capital. And so I'm basically going into that journey of trying to raise capital to, put the right system in place. So when the time comes to, I'll be ready for that.
Okay. And what's the most valuable thing that you've learned from that program so far?
The most valuable things. There's a lot of like the technical aspect that we've been covering. That's I think that's great. I did not go to business school, and so it's a fast speed of that type of course. And to really know your numbers and like and to see patterns of your business and to make decision based on those things. So I think that's important.
Okay. And where would you like to see your business in the next 5 to 10 years?
Next 5-10 years, to grow the value of the brand, to open the top busiest African airports, shops, and so just to continue to discover, I guess, more like talented artisans across the continent. So far, we work with like 7 countries. So hopefully it will be, because there are 54 of them. So I would like to triple that.
What countries are you working with right now?
Right now, we work with Egypt, Kenya, Rwanda, Senegal, Niger, Ethiopia, and so forth.
Interesting. And what are like the differences that you see in style or, I guess, technique from those different places? Do they differ a lot, or
very different aesthetics in terms of design, and also materials that's available. Whether it be you're working with leather or silver or textile, so depending on where you are. So that's the great thing, is that Africa is really, people perceive it as like one country. It's not. It's so vastly different, and I'm excited to bring that to showcase that.
That's amazing. And lastly, what advice would you give to young designers just starting out and hoping to make it in the industry?
I would say, fashion is quite a saturated market, and so you have to make sure you bring in something that is unique and that is absolutely you. And because that always becomes easier once you kind of stay with your own aesthetics, your own distinct values that you care about, because it can get very, wishy-washy. And so to really know what your style is and like be consistent, because that's when authentic goes a long way.
That makes sense. And for those who want to learn more about your brand and find it and buy as many products as possible, where can they find you?
They can go to zaafcollection.com, the website. We have an online shop. It's limited in terms of options, or visit us at our retail location in National Harbor, Maryland, or discover us on social media, Instagram ZAAF Collection, Twitter ZAAF_collection, and email info@ZAAFcollection.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Abai, for stopping by and sharing your story, and appreciate your time, and you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.